Hey, heroes, welcome back to another episode here. As we did a big breakdown, Wheel of Time is out. Came out kind of as a surprise, I would say, last night, right? And we watched it. We did mega breakdowns of all 3 episodes. But now let's come back and let's do our non-spoiler review for maybe people who just want that, who want that
Sure.
non-spoiler review. What did we think? What are some, are there any changes from the books, any sort of drastic changes? There's been some pushback, I would say, by some of the like even more diehard book fans than us.
Right.
So ultimately, as a sort of non-spoiler review, what did we think? Because we both said in our spoiler reviews we loved it.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, I think, I thought it was fantastic. I thought they did do a good job of balancing details from the book and then also being original in these episodes. Like, it's beautiful. There's a good score. I think everyone, even the people who I've seen who have been critical of this, have to agree that the acting is good. The acting is really
Oh
good.
yeah,
And I
yeah.
think that's one of those things that, like, I felt like when you get into this, you can kind of you're going to have some missteps. You're going to have some things that maybe go wrong or that you can improve upon as you go forward. But the actors are really good and the sets are good. Like it feels like Wheel of Time. So that's my big takeaway was that I felt like I was there. I felt like I was in Emmons Field. I felt like I was with those characters I read about years ago. So I had that essence and that feel. So to me, I would say it's good, definitely worth your time to go check out. Make sure, I mean, don't stop with episode 1. Get through the 3 that they've given you, and that's why I think that's why they gave it to folks was to say, see how authentic, see how we stay true to the books here, see where we deviate a little bit, and then look for that blended episode where they kind of do a bit of both. It's like trust us, here's 3 episodes. Take a good look at what we're doing.
Yeah, and I would say, so for me, there are definitely some changes with some characters. There are some characters that we're now going to give a little more backstory to. And I think that what it ultimately does is it allows them to, again, remember, this is a TV adaptation of a massive book series where you're going to be doing 8 episodes a season. You just can't go line for line down the page of each book. That's just impossible. And also, as we've noticed reading the books, there's a lot of stuff that I think could be cut out of the books, let alone cut
Yep.
out of let alone cut out of television. Okay. I mean, we're
Mhm.
not we're not even close to there yet, but I guarantee you we will not be spending 6 episodes on circus chapters.
Right.
So I can say that for certain. So there's definitely stuff that's sort of added, right?
Mhm.
There are some new characters that are sort of added. Some characters have a slight they've changed some of their arc a little bit and sort of not necessarily their arc, they've changed the way that their arc will be done
Mhm.
um by adding some characters around them and giving us a little more backstory or some some things that are done differently, but I think ultimately what it does is it's going to still propel these characters into who they are in the books fundamentally as people.
Yeah, well, yeah, 100%. I think, like you said, you felt like, and we were talking about this in our spoiler review. It doesn't take away. Like I don't feel like anything is like really took me away from the experience. I wasn't pulled out of it. One of the things that was brought up was the CGI. What was it good enough? Was it not? I really I glossed
I
right past it.
watched it.
Didn't even.
I gotta say, I watched it again today, and I found it to be fine. I think last night some of the there because it was like there was a lot of people were having streaming issues because like the page sometimes like it would like you'd click and it was just down. Like you couldn't even
Yeah,
get it to start. Couldn't
yeah,
even get it to start just because so many people were watching it. But I watched it this morning, crisp, full HD, looked glorious. Watched it on my 4K screen, and it looked
yeah.
fantastic. It looked absolutely fantastic. And so watching it again, some of that could have just been from the streaming. Sometimes even when you're streaming something, it may not appear as if it's lagging, but it is. And
Mhm.
so you're not getting a full. in this case 24 to 30 or 60, even if you're doing something else, frames a second, that you are at a different time where there's not really any hiccups or issues. And sometimes when you watch something on streaming, you'll notice that your quality can dip back and forth. And so that could be something that happens too. But I watched it again this morning, and I thought it looked way better, just
Yeah.
so that's in that second time through.
Yeah. My biggest thing, I guess, to folks who in a non-spoiler review is to tell you how I felt. And the way that I felt was overall, like, our initial enthusiasm was so through the roof.
It was
And
crazy.
and people could say, well, that's a lot of your nostalgia. It's a lot of these things. You've read the
Yeah.
books, the characters, all that kind of stuff. And that's fine. But also, even a day later, stepping back here and looking at this, I still am emotional. Like, I still have, I've been seeing folks come in and talk to us about their spouses or their other individuals who are watching it, like, on the edge of their seat, like, wow, this is really good, right? People who are seeing it, saying that I don't know anything about this story, but I'm intrigued. I want more. So yeah, I felt really
Yeah.
good watching it.
Yeah, and we watched all three, and when we watched episode 1, we felt like the pace was a little fast, but again, it was also so much hype and excitement, and seeing all this stuff for the first time, and so, like, hearts are racing. And they dropped it earlier at, like, I guess technically the Amazon does drop their shows at that time anyway, but that's just not something Amazon is not Disney, Amazon is not Netflix. Amazon Prime is still coming into its own. Yes, it has shows like The Boys and stuff like that, but it's not like Netflix where you have Stranger Things and The Witcher and, like, House of Cards. And I mean, the list can go on and on and on about
Mhm.
mega Netflix shows and Disney Plus shows, and they all do it differently. So it felt like Amazon dropped it early,
Right.
just to say the least. And so it's like, oh my God, we're getting the show. It's like going to go live now, and it's also 3 episodes all at once. And of course, you and I were live streaming, and so we're like, we gotta,
Right.
do all this stuff, and everyone's freaking out, and the hype and excitement was crazy. So when I watched it again this morning, I still kind of stand by what I said last night in our spoiler reviews, where episode 1 does still feel just a little fast. Even now, I know what's happening and what's coming. But episode 2 and 3 is definitely take like a deep breath. And it's like, okay, we're going to do a little more lore, give you a little bit of the lore and everything. But episode 1, I think, is still great. Does a great job of introducing the characters, does a great job of giving you some action there at the end. And you get to see, okay, cool. All of these people are powerful. This is a big deal. And I think just from the 3 episodes we have total, I feel like I'm set to go. I'm ready to go on
Yeah.
this big, because this is only one small, tiny little part of the full, overwhelming story. And so you really need, I mean, you really need just at least season 1 to sort of gauge how this show is going to go. And then, they reflect upon feedback and pushback. I mean, Game of Thrones flat out cut out an entire section of the story
Mhm.
because it got lower ratings than everything else. Said, okay, fine, we'll
Right.
change it, and we'll adapt it. So if there's things that for some people who are, like, really hardcore book people that you don't like, voice that.
Sure. Yeah.
Voice your opinion, because they do read that. They do feedback groups. They do all of that stuff. Tweet at them and say, hey, I didn't like this and whatever. And then
Mhm.
that's how they improve the show and make it better. And they do listen to that feedback.
Yeah, because they've already they're into season 2, and also season 3 has been greenlit, so we know this is going forward for at least 3 seasons. How do we push it to 8 seasons, which is what we want? Just keep watching, keep giving good feedback, and try to take away some positives from it, right? So, try. They gave you 3 episodes to look at, and I think if you go back and give it a rewatch, you'll find a lot more. I don't know. I think you'll find some hidden gems in there and some Easter eggs that are good for book readers, and then just stuff to speculate as show watch. People who only watch a show can speculate on and think about. So I felt good. There is some violence. There is definitely some violence. There's some scary moments, right? So
Mhm.
not necessarily. I don't know what this
There
would
is
be rating.
definitely some gore. We were talking about
Yeah.
that. There is definitely some gore, even outside of
Yeah.
just sort of blood and stuff like that. So yeah.
Yeah, pay attention to that if you're gonna watch it and your kids are running around or things like that. It who knows? And they played that pretty safe though. But what that showed me is that the coming episodes we might have more of that, and it might be even more intense. So yeah, we'll kind of see. But
yeah, but so all in all, sort of just a spoiler-free review. Yes, I really enjoyed it. They definitely do move some things around. They definitely do add some things, but I think the reason they're adding some things is that it will allow them in a short little burst to subtract a whole lot of stuff later.
mhm.
And that way we can condense because there's just no way to not condense this story.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, they can't make it 14 seasons, 26 episodes. That's just impossible.
Yeah, I mean, again, I'll say this just
I mean,
to,
it's not impossible, but
yeah.
that's
To the heavy
pretty
critic,
true.
to the heavy book critic out there, I said this to Matt earlier, like, it's not just like, "Oh, I would have done things differently." It's, no, you're given a budget, and then you have to work inside of that budget. Now, what do you do? What decisions do you make? And so, again, they can be different from Rafe and the other, directors and whatnot, and what to cut, what to keep. They, inside that same budget, you could do something different. But I think sometimes people start being critical with an infinite budget in their mind. Like, why couldn't we just do it chapter by chapter, page by page? It's like,
Exactly.
we can't do that. So that's just where we're at. It's a reality. But I loved it. We loved it, and we stand by our initial kind of reactions and thoughts. I mean, just overwhelmingly good feels. So from the show.
Okay. Absolutely. So, all right, guys. Hey, be sure to leave us a like, comment, hit that subscribe button. Let us know what you guys think once you finally do come back and watch it. You can send us a spoiler or non-spoiler sort of theory, however you want to do it. But I think, by the end of the weekend, I think it's certainly going to be safe to talk spoilers seasons, of episodes 1, 2, and 3. So be sure to send that to us at thehornetvalier@gmail.com. We will see you shortly because we got a lot of stuff coming out. Ez and I are going to be doing sort of, we're doing some live streams, bringing our patrons on, all that stuff. So stay tuned for all of that stuff, guys. And remember that the grave is no bar to our call.